The Zir Dominion fleet drifted above the smoldering husk of what had once been a thriving Vayari colony. From orbit, the surface glowed faintly red, cracks of molten earth spidering out from where plasma lances had cut too deep. Cities had become ash. The air was poisoned. The defenders, those few that had dared to resist, were now scattered debris circling their own ruined world. Admiral Calyx leaned back in his command chair, mandibles flexing with faint boredom. The bridge was quiet, save for the faint hum of power conduits and the soft tapping of officers running final scans for survivors. None would be allowed. Dominion policy was absolute. Once marked, a colony ceased to exist in any meaningful sense. Another victory without challenge, Calyx murmured, his tone carrying more weariness than pride. His adjutant, a younger officer eager for approval, clicked in agreement. The Vayari will remember this lesson, Admiral. They'll think twice before defying our tribute demands again. Calyx's mandibles twitched, halfway between a grin and a yawn. They will think nothing. They have nothing left to think with. Their spirit is ash like their cities. He gestured at the cracked world below. How many such planets have we burned this century? 20? 30? They blur together. The bridge crew laughed softly, the sound more dutiful than sincere. War in the Dominion had become routine, a practiced cruelty, perfected across 1,000 systems. On the main display, a transmission flickered from one of the raiding wings. A commander stood amidst the shrieking chaos of conquered civilians. Zir soldiers herded the few Vayari who had survived the bombardment into waiting transports. Some cried, others prayed, most simply stared blankly. Their voices did not matter, their labor would in time. Order them sorted quickly, Calyx commanded, waving a hand. No need for dramatics. Efficiency as always. He cut the channel with a flick of his claw. For all the Dominion's vaunted strength, Calyx felt no triumph. These were not wars, they were executions. The galaxy had long since accepted Dominion rule as inevitable. Any who resisted ended as rubble beneath its fleets. There had been no real challenge in decades. That monotony was broken by the sudden arrival of a new signal. A scout wing had returned from a galactic rim, bringing data packets. The officer at comms stiffened. Admiral, long-range probes confirm unregistered settlements beyond Vayari space. Unclaimed. Agricultural, lightly defended. Species designation human. The word was alien in Calyx's ears, spoken like a curiosity more than a threat. Human, he repeated, tasting the strangeness of it. Yes, Admiral. Scans suggest no notable fleets, only scattered colonies. Primitive layouts, weak shielding. Their signals are unusually quiet. Calyx leaned forward, mandibles clicking. Quiet. Every fledgling species broadcasts their vanity into the void. Speeches aren't propaganda. Silence is not in a young people's nature. Perhaps they are timid, the adjutant offered quickly. Ripen for harvest. The bridge rippled with low amusement. Timid prey was the Dominion's favorite kind. Calyx considered. In truth, he hungered for novelty. Endless campaigns against broken races had dulled the edge of command. A new species might, if only briefly, rekindle that edge. Plot a course, he ordered. Take their border worlds first. Let us see what these humans are made of, if anything at all. The fleet surged across the void, entering the unclaimed rim with ease. Their first strike fell upon a small agricultural station orbiting a pale green moon. Defenses were laughable, a handful of railguns, a scatter of outdated fighters. Dominion cruisers cut through them in minutes. The station's distress beacon flared, and then went silent under a blast of plasma. The soldiers expected screams, panic, begging. Instead, the captured transmissions carried something stranger, an even, calm voice speaking galactic standard with a clarity that unsettled the bridge crew. This is human space. Turn back. Do not approach Sol. You will not return. The officer at comms frowned. It is not a plea. It is a statement. The adjutant snorted, posturing. They hope to frighten us with empty words. Yet Calyx's mandibles stilled. There was no tremor of fear, no desperate edge in the human message. It sounded less like a warning and more like a fact. A law of physics casually spoken aloud. He replayed it again, listening in silence. The same steady tone, the same lack of urgency. Then the channel cut, as if the humans had nothing more to add. The bridge shifted uneasily. One officer muttered, "Who speaks to the Dominion in that manner?" Calyx's eyes narrowed, but after a moment he laughed, a sharp, commanding laugh that forced the crew into nervous echoes. Bold, if nothing else. Let us see if their confidence survives contact. Over the next weeks, Dominion forces burned half a dozen outlying human colonies. Resistance was minimal. A few patrol ships fell, but nothing significant. The humans, it seemed, bled easily enough. Calix's adjutant began drafting reports declaring the humans unremarkable, their settlements ripe for full integration. But each conquest brought the same transmission, always from nowhere and everywhere, calm, precise, unshaken. This is human space. Turn back. Do not approach Sol. You will not return. Calix's crew began to murmur among themselves. It was not fear, not yet, but the repetition carved unease into them. The humans never pleaded, never negotiated, never cursed. They simply warned, in the same tone, every time. The Admiral silenced such doubts with scorn. Is superstition you feel? Nothing more. We are the storm. They are the grass. And grass always bends before the wind. At last, the choice was laid before him. Intelligence suggested the central human world, Earth, lay deep within Sol system. The adjutant presented the analysis with eager confidence. Strike there, Admiral, and their defiance collapses. Cut out the heart. Show them the Dominion's true power. The bridge awaited his command. Calix sat back, claws drumming the arm of his chair. The warning echoed again in his mind, strange in its certainty. Do not approach Sol. You will not return. For the first time in many years, he felt the faintest pressure of doubt, like the whisper of a predator glimpsed in shadow. Then he dismissed it. The Dominion had crushed powers far greater than this silent, untested race. His people were unchallenged, eternal. The humans would break as all the others had. He stood, raising his claw in command. Prepare the fleet. We set course for Sol. The bridge erupted with disciplined efficiency, officers calling out vectors and readiness reports. Engines roared to life. The stars shifted as the fleet aligned toward an unassuming system at the rim of the galaxy. Admiral Calix watched the darkness ahead, his boredom finally stirred into anticipation. Whatever waited within Sol, he would face it, as the Dominion always had. With conquest, with fire, with certainty. Yet as the fleet leapt into the void, a silence lingered on the bridge. The humans' words clung to every officer, unshaken and absolute. Do not approach Sol. You will not return. And though none dared speak it aloud, each felt a quiet tremor of unease at the thought that perhaps, just this once, the grass might not bend before the storm. The void parted, and the Zir Dominion fleet slid into the Sol system with the arrogance of conquerors who had never tasted defeat. Their hulls gleamed like obsidian blades under the faint light of the sun, engines burning bright as they fanned into assault formation. The bridge of the flagship thrummed with restrained anticipation, officers leaning forward at their consoles, already imagining the swiftness of their victory. Admiral Calix remained silent, studying the pale blue world at the heart of the system. Earth. From this distance it seemed fragile, a soft jewel suspended in blackness, its oceans catching sunlight in silver streaks. To his eyes, it looked like countless other worlds he had consigned to ruin. Yet the memory of the human warning gnawed at him. Do not approach Sol. You will not return. He had dismissed it with laughter in front of his crew, but here, with the planet before him, the words pressed heavier. Shields are weak, Admiral, the adjutant announced with smug efficiency. No planetary defense grid. No orbital fortress network. Only scattered satellites. Their fleet presence is negligible. Laughter rippled through the bridge, a sound rehearsed in every campaign before this one. The Dominion had come to expect that every species, no matter how loudly it postured, would fall with similar ease. Advance the formation, Calix ordered at last, his voice cool. Let the humans witness their fragility. The fleet pushed deeper, scanning the system as they passed Mars, then the asteroid belt, then the glittering curve of Jupiter. Nothing stirred but faint civilian traffic and the dead quiet of rock and ice. Too quiet. Calix's mandibles twitched, but he forced his thoughts still. Then it began. On the edge of the fleet sensors, wormholes flared open like jagged wounds in space. From them poured vessels, sleek, angular, and utterly unlike the scattered patrol craft they had annihilated at the rim. Hundreds, perhaps thousands, of human ships materialized with silent precision, their formation unervingly exact. Each ship's hull shimmered with shifting geometries, adaptive plating that distorted Dominion targeting systems. The Dominion bridge fell silent. Even the hum of the conduits seemed to hush. "Identify," Kalex ordered sharply. The officer at comms faltered. "Admiral, the ships are broadcasting no military signatures. They are silent." Another voice, strained with disbelief. "Their weapons are already locked on us." A channel opened, unbidden, across the Dominion fleet. The screen filled with the image of a human commander. She was not armored nor flanked by symbols of rank. She wore a dark uniform with no adornments, her expression calm, her eyes unreadable. "This is your first and only warning," she said, voice steady, as though addressing a routine disturbance rather than a war fleet. "You have trespassed into Sol. Leave now, or you will not leave at all." Her face vanished. Kalex felt the weight of her words like a blade resting on his chest. There had been no shouting, no theatrics. Only certainty. "Attack," the adjutant barked, snapping the bridge back into motion. Weapons powered, ships surged forward, and volleys of plasma and missiles lanced toward the human fleet. The response was merciless in its precision. Human ships did not scatter or hesitate. They pivoted as one, unleashing a storm of kinetic slugs accelerated to impossible velocities. Dominion shields collapsed under the first barrage. Cruisers split open, air and fire venting into the void. Each strike was deliberate, each target chosen with mathematical care. On the bridge, chaos erupted. "Admiral, our readings, these weapons." "I see it," Kalex hissed, eyes locked on the display. The humans had studied them. Every Dominion weakness, every flaw in their armor and shielding, every standard maneuver, it was all accounted for. This was not improvisation. This was preparation. A cold dread tightened in his chest. Reform the line. Counter their flanks. Yet before the Dominion could respond, more wormholes flared. Drones, countless autonomous constructs, poured through, weaving patterns of destruction that the Dominion fleet could not parse. They struck command vessels first, silencing coordination. They struck supply ships next, severing the fleet's endurance. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the assault stopped. Wreckage drifted silently across the void, Dominion ships gutted or disabled. Survivors floated amidst twisted metal, too stunned even to call for retreat. The human fleet remained where it had appeared, silent and still, their weapons cold once more. A transmission cut through the stunned static. The same human commander appeared, her expression unchanged. "You were warned," she said. "Go. Carry our words to your masters. Sol is not to be crossed." Then the channel closed, and the human fleet turned its weapons away, leaving the Dominion to gather its wounded pride and limping vessels. On the bridge of the flagship, the silence was suffocating. Officers stared at their consoles, unable to meet each other's eyes. Kalex forced his mandibles to stillness, though his thoughts swirled with the bitter taste of fear. He had commanded fleets across the galaxy, had burned empires into ash, but never had he seen such restraint. The humans could have annihilated them entirely. They had not. That was no mercy. That was a message. As the battered fleet crawled back toward Dominion space, Kalex sat alone in his quarters, replaying the battle again and again. He studied the efficiency of the strikes, the chilling calm of the human commander's voice, the unnerving silence of their ships. These were not primitives defending themselves in desperation. These were predators choosing not to kill. He thought again of a warning: do not approach Sol. You will not return. And for the first time in decades, Admiral Kalex wondered if the Dominion had finally found something it could not conquer. The great chamber of the Dominion Council shimmered with light refracted through crystalline walls, a display designed to awe and intimidate visiting envoys. Today it only suffocated Admiral Kalex. He stood in the center of the circle, alone before rows of leaders whose jeweled carapaces glimmered under the light. Their voices buzzed and clicked in a chorus of contempt, the sound of predators mocking prey. Kalex did not flinch. His eyes fixed on the vast holoscreen above him, replaying the footage of Sol. Dominion ships disintegrating in precise bursts, drones carving apart supply lines, human vessels materializing from nothing. He let the images speak first, hoping the truth would pierce arrogance. But when the sequence ended, the chamber erupted with laughter. "One skirmish," his counselor threats, his voice sharp as broken glass. "A fleet commander returns home with his tail coiled, claiming doom because barbarians threw stones well. Do you mistake your shame for prophecy, Admiral?" The others echoed him, some chuckling, some clicking their mandibles in mocking rhythm. Calyx's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice even. These were no stones. Their weapons cut through our shields as if they were nothing. Their formations were perfect. Every strike was calculated. We were not ambushed, we were studied. Studied, another counselor jeered. Then you admit you allowed primitives to examine us like insects in a jar? You disgrace yourself further. Calyx's mandibles flared, but he forced the anger back. Rage would serve nothing here. He steadied his breath. I speak not of disgrace. I speak of danger. The humans did not annihilate us. They let us live. That restraint was deliberate. They wanted us to carry a message. Silence touched the chamber for the first time, but it was brittle and brief. A third voice, deep and disdainful, broke it. Restraint? Or incompetence? Perhaps they lacked the strength to finish what they began. Calyx turned sharply. If they lack strength, then why are we the ones limping home while they stand untouched? Why does soul remain closed to us? His claws scraped the floor as his voice hardened. I have led campaigns against a dozen species. None frighten me. This does. The laughter faltered into murmurs. Some leaders exchanged uneasy glances, their arrogance fraying. Yet Threx pressed on, unwilling to yield. You speak of fear like a hatchling. The Dominion does not fear. The Dominion commands. Send another fleet, larger this time. Burn their soul system to cinders, and this talk of warnings will dissolve with the smoke. Applause rippled through the chamber. It was the answer they wanted: strength, escalation, the old methods that had carried them across the galaxy for centuries. To them, humanity was an anomaly to be crushed, not a threat to be heeded. Calyx bowed his head slightly, not in submission but in exhaustion. He had expected no better. Still, he spoke once more, softer now, a voice that carried the weight of memory. Do not mistake my warning for cowardice. I have destroyed civilizations. I know the taste of conquest. But when I replay their battle, when I see the precision of their strikes, I see something older than us. They have war in their bones. We practice conquest as craft, they practice it as nature. If you send another fleet, you send it to slaughter. For a moment, the chamber grew still. Some counselors shifted uneasily. One or two lowered their eyes. Yet Threx rose to his full height, spreading his jeweled arms in a theatrical gesture. Then let the slaughter be theirs. The Dominion does not cower from shadows. If humanity claims soul as fortress, then we shall drag them into open space and break them beneath our armadas. Enough of this defeatist poison. Remove it from this chamber. The guard stepped forward, but Calyx raised his claws. I will go. His voice was steady now, though quiet bitterness sharpened its edge. I have said what I must. You will not listen. You never do. When the galaxy burns with your pride, remember that I tried to warn you. He turned and walked from the chamber, the laughter chasing him like a storm. Later, in the solitude of his quarters, Calyx pored over the battle recordings once more. The faces of his officers haunted him, the fear they tried to mask, the disbelief that had spread across the bridge when the human fleet appeared. He watched the human commander again, her voice cold, her gaze calm. No cruelty, no mockery. Only certainty. This is your first and only warning. Leave now, or you will not leave at all. The words carved themselves deeper with each replay. They did not echo like a threat. They lingered like a truth waiting to unfold. He pulled up fragments of intercepted transmissions, human data, carried across the void. Some were ancient, thousands of years old, recorded in crude video formats. He watched grainy images of firestorms swallowing cities, soldiers fighting in mud-soaked trenches, mushroom clouds rising like gods of judgment. He watched humans turn their fury upon themselves again and again across centuries. His claws trembled as he whispered to himself they were practicing on each other. The realization hollowed him. Humanity had forged itself in endless crucibles of blood long before it reached the stars. They had perfected war not as science, but as culture. The Dominion's victories had been effortless because their enemies had been naive, untested, unshaped by struggle. But humanity was different. Humanity was forged. The comms chimed. His adjutant appeared on the screen, eager and flushed with false confidence. Admiral, the Council has decided. They will send the Grand Armada to Sol. Victory will be ours. You are ordered to prepare your vessels for integration into the campaign. Calyx closed his eyes. The Council's arrogance had sealed their fate. His own name would be bound to the coming catastrophe. He felt no pride, only dread. "Understood," he said quietly. When the transmission ended, he sat in silence, the glow of the recordings still burning across his console. He did not pray. Dominion commanders had no gods to call upon. But for the first time in his long career, he wished he did. The fleet would march again, and this time, the humans would not be content to warn. The Grand Armada moved through the stars like a tide of steel, 1,000 Dominion vessels arrayed in flawless formation. Their hulls burned with ceremonial banners, their engines roared with the certainty of inevitability. From the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Calix watched them march towards Sol with the heavy silence of a condemned man. He had tried to warn them. He had spoken of precision, of restraint, of an enemy who knew war not as practice, but as instinct. The Council had dismissed him as weak. Now they had placed him at the forefront of this grand gesture, a symbol of Dominion dominance. The irony was not lost on him. "Admiral," his adjutant said, voice taut with rehearsed zeal, the Council broadcasts across all channels. They demand a decisive strike. They expect the humans broken before the galaxy by dusk cycle. Calix did not answer. His gaze lingered on the pale blue star ahead. The humans had not interfered since that first battle. They had allowed the Dominion to march, as if shepherding prey toward a killing ground. Every instinct told him they were walking into a trap, yet the Armada pressed forward with blind faith in numbers. The first anomaly appeared near Saturn. Wormholes bloomed like dark flowers, each one vomiting forth fleets of human vessels. They did not charge. They did not posture. They simply formed walls of steel, layer upon layer, silent and still waiting. "Contact!" cried an officer. "Enemy ships, hundreds, no, thousands." The Armada thundered to battle stations, plasma lances warming, torpedo bays primed. Yet even before the first volley, something was wrong. Dominion sensors glitched, scrambled by invisible interference. Target locks refused to settle. Communications fractured with bursts of static. The formation wavered. Then the humans struck. It was not battle. It was execution. Autonomous drones swarmed like locusts, each one smaller than a fighter, faster than a missile, and deadlier than either. They sliced through shielding, lodged into hulls, and detonated with surgical precision. Dominion vessels shuddered and split apart before they had fired more than a token volley. The Armada fired back in fury, plasma beams lancing through the void. A few human ships fell, but for every vessel destroyed, 10 more emerged from wormholes that opened with terrifying coordination. The sky itself seemed to bend to their will, corridors of space folding and unfolding at their command. On the flagship's bridge, chaos reigned. Officers shouted over one another, reports of annihilation pouring in. Left flank collapsing, supply carriers gone, command ships destroyed. Calix stood still in the storm, his gaze fixed on the holoscreen where the Armada died piece by piece. He had seen defeat before, but never inevitability. This was not the chaos of battle. This was a predator's hunt, conducted with calm precision. A transmission cut through the static. The same human commander appeared once more. Her face was calm, her voice without malice. "This ends now. Lay down your arms. No more need die." The adjutant spat, mandibles wide in rage. "Defiance. Lies. Fire all weapons. Show them the Dominion's wrath." But Calix raised a claw, silencing him. He studied the human's eyes, searching for cruelty, for arrogance, for anything he could understand. He found only certainty. The words carried no heat, no threat. They were truth. The Armada roared one last time. Ships surged forward, desperation overwhelming reason. They collided with the human wall, and were cut down in moments. Carriers collapsed into fireballs. Battleships spun out, their screams cut short as drones pierced their hearts. One by one, Dominion icons vanished from a holoscreen until only fragments of wreckage drifted across the void. The flagship shuddered as a blast tore through its flank. Alarm screamed, bulkheads sealed, but the ship would not hold for long. Calix turned to his adjutant, whose zeal had withered into panic. "Do you see now?" Calix asked softly. The adjutant's mandibles clattered. "They cannot, they must not." "They can," Calix said. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. "And they have." Another blast ripped through the flagship. Consoles exploded in showers of sparks. Officers were hurled from their stations. The lights flickered, then died. And then silence. When Calix awoke, he was no longer on his bridge. The walls around him were smooth and pale, humming faintly with unseen power. Human guards stood at the periphery, their eyes sharp but their weapons lowered. Across from him sat the human commander, her expression unchanged from the transmission. "You survived," she said. Calyx straightened slowly. His body ached, his pride more so. "Why?" "Because someone must carry the message," she replied. "Empires rise on fear. They crumble on truth. You will tell them." Calyx studied her, searching for malice, for triumph, for some trace of cruelty he could seize upon to make sense of defeat. But there was nothing, only calm, only certainty. "You could have destroyed us all," he said. Her gaze did not waver. "We could have. We chose not to. We do not need corpses. We need witnesses." Calyx exhaled slowly, the weight of inevitability crushing him. He had spent a lifetime wielding fear as weapon, bending weaker species to the Dominion's will. Now he understood how it felt to stand on the other side. He understood why the humans had spoken so simply, "Do not approach Sol. You will not return." "What will you do now?" he asked, his voice almost a whisper. The human commander leaned back, eyes distant as though she gazed beyond the walls, beyond the stars themselves. "We will remain what we are. Patient, watching, ready. The galaxy has forced our hand once. It will not happen again." For the first time in years, Calyx felt something more dangerous than fear. He felt respect. The chamber door opened. A human officer entered, carrying a data slate. He placed it before Calyx. "Your new designation. You will serve as liaison between your people and ours. You will speak for them. You will remind them." Calyx looked down at the slate, at the words carved into his fate. He had been conqueror, destroyer, admiral of the Dominion. Now he was to be something else entirely, proof. When the humans left him alone, he stared at the quiet walls, his mind replaying the battle again and again. Not just the destruction, but the silence that followed. The humans did not celebrate. They did not revel. They ended the armada with the same calm certainty with which one closes a door. The galaxy would hear of this. And when it did, the galaxy would change. Calyx closed his eyes, and for the first time since he had taken command of a fleet, he allowed himself to rest. He had lived to see the truth. No empire would ever cross into human space again.